Here are some more Lincoln Cent varieties that don't always get the attention they deserve. Let's start off with a repunched mint mark variety from 1938. Not the much more talked about triple punched S variety from this year, but the FS 101 S over S repunched mint mark coin instead. Here, the S mint mark was repunched over an existing S mint mark, the remnants of which are still barely seen towards the top of the primary S below the date. This coin was graded by PCGS as MS67 plus red and sold at auction for the sum of $720. When looking through 1984 pennies, most people will look for the doubled ear variety, as indeed we all should. But that should not be done to the exclusion of this variety, where the ear is normal but the date is clearly doubled on the obverse. The 9 is especially clearly doubled with separation lines running along the tail of the number. Furthermore, the bottom rounding of the 8 is also doubled in much the same manner. This coin was graded by PCGS as MS65 red, and during the auction it sold for $720. Despite the great care generally given to their creation, even proof coins are not immune from spawning variety coins, a case demonstrated by this 1956 proof coin that displays some unmistakable doubling on the obverse design, best demonstrated by additional thickness and some subtle separation lines on the numbers of the date, especially towards the bottom right of the 9, the 5, and 6. The letters of Liberty are also affected by the doubling. The I and the E are especially clear in this respect. Graded by PCGS as Proof 69 red, it was sold at auction for $720. Another great example of a proof variety on offer was this 1953 doubled obverse type. While perhaps not as clear as the 1956 coin just discussed before, this is all the same an attractive variety. The date is the clearest point of interest, despite the letters of Liberty being affected as well. The 1 as well as the 9 of the date display doubling towards the southeast. Graded by PCGS as Proof 67 red cameo, it attained a closing price at auction of $720. Then we have a coin from 1942 and the San Francisco Mint that displays multiple varieties at once. There is simultaneously doubling on the obverse design as well as having a repunched mint mark. The doubling, though, is seen on most of the obverse lettering as well as the designs of Lincoln's bust. It is easiest to spot on the number 9 of the date. Then the S mint mark's initial punching can be seen towards the left of the bottom serif, as well as inside both of the cavities of the S. Graded by PCGS as MS66 plus red, this gem of a coin achieved a closing price at auction of $750. The next coin is a surprisingly easy one to overlook if we're being completely honest, because of the way that the doubling took place on this coin. A modern 2009 proof strike of the formative years centenary penny. As is the case with most of these coins, the doubling took place on Lincoln's hand. Specifically, the index finger is doubled towards the top, from the knuckle towards the spine of the book that he is holding. Graded by PCGS as Proof 69 red, deep cameo, it sold at auction for $780. A variety that was discovered fairly recently for the 1945 issue of Lincoln Cent is this doubled obverse type, which has been growing in popularity ever since its inclusion in the Cherry Picker's Guide. Now, to find the doubling on this coin, your best bet is to look at the letters of Liberty, where most of the letters are doubled towards the top, but the B, E, R, and mostly the Y, also displayed this doubling in the clearest fashion. Graded by PCGS as MS65 Red, this stunning example was sold at auction for $780. The San Francisco Mint started minting pennies in 1909, and by the time that this coin comes around in 1911, we already have a good handful of great varieties to search for from this branch mint. This is the 1911 S over S repunched mint mark variety. The initial S mint mark is struck in, and in fact the remnants of it can still be seen towards the west of the primary S mint mark, appearing in this case almost like a shadow or a ghost image towards the left. This coin was graded by PCGS as MS64 Red Brown, and at auction was able to sell for $780. 1927 was a time when the 20s were in fact still roaring, and the Great Depression that would rock the world only a few years away could not be imagined by most. 1927 also has a doubled obverse penny with some moderate doubling that you can look for. The letters of "In God We Trust" is the primary place of interest for this coin, where the doubling displays towards the left of the letters. PCGS graded this coin as MS64 Red, and at auction it sold for $810. Entering the 1940s, there seemingly was a surge of really good variety coins emanating from every single date and branch mint. This 1942 D over D penny is a primary example of just that, and it's not even the only D over D repunched mint mark that is seen from this issue either. The initial D on this coin can still be detected directly to the top of the primary D mint mark. This coin was sold at auction graded by PCGS as MS67 Red for the sum of $840. On to 1972 from there, and in the spirit of minor varieties, we have a doubled tail 2 variety now. Not the headline varieties from 1972 that get all of the attention, and perhaps rightly so, but here the doubling is concentrated more specifically. Look towards the tail of the base of the number 2 in the date, and you should be able to spot the doubling due north, although with a slight diagonal slant. PCGS graded this coin as MS66 Red, and during the auction it raised exactly $900. Of the 3 major variety coins for the 1936 penny, this would be the third example, where the doubling is mostly concentrated on the letters of "In God We Trust." The best of the doubling can be spotted on the "In God" section of the design though, where the doubling displays towards the left of the letters in question. The example of the coin on offer was graded by PCGS as MS66 Red, and at auction it sold for $900. Heading back to the early years of the Lincoln Penny series for now to find a lovely repunched mint mark in the form of the 1910 S over S variety. Now, it should be noted that there are multiple similar varieties that match this description. This, however, is the FS502 type, where the initial S was struck in due north of the primary S mint mark, with most of the top of the S still seen at that position, making this a very attractive variety coin, and a popular one at that to boot. This example was graded by PCGS as MS65 Red, and at auction it sold for $1,080. I feel like the 1960 penny really deserves more attention. There are some fantastic varieties scattered all throughout this year's production run. Another one like that is found on the proof cent for this year. This is the 1960 large date proof doubled reverse cent. The doubling is not as dynamic as some of the others on this list, but it is still the strongest of the various such coins known. Now, you can locate the doubling primarily on the right face of the memorial building, especially on the entablature as well as on the foundation stones right next to the designer's initials. This example of the coin was graded by PCGS as proof 67 red and sold at auction for $1,200. Subscribe to WNN and activate notifications with the bell icon to know when new videos are released. For the World Numismatic News, I am Numisman saying thank you for watching, keep collecting, and have a fantastic day.